It's Friday, September 3rd, and we have some more slightly unexpected activity in the tropics right off the coast of Florida. We've actually seen a new area of interest pop up. This would be expected to move through the state in the next day or two. It's just a little low pressure system on the edge of a remnant frontal boundary that could potentially be spin up. The likelihood of this actually forming into something is very slim, though, only 10%. But I still think we can expect to see some weather with some tropical characteristics in Florida. However, it will just be nothing more than your typical afternoon thunderstorms. And of course, this area of concern out here in the main development region has seen an uptick in the possibility of formation. It's now up to a 30% chance, and we even have some models clinging onto it, like the Euro, that are also potentially forecasting some development as well. Now, on satellite right off the coast of Florida, we can pretty clearly see right where that remnant frontal boundary is. And we also see some frontal activity on the end of that. Just a couple of thunderstorms. We could potentially see this spin into something. However, the likelihood that is very slim, and it just looks like it's going to be some typical thunderstorm conditions. Now, out in our main development region, we can't really see it yet because it's a tropical wave kind of coming off the coast of Africa right now, but it looks like we could have potentially a pretty favorable environment in front of it. And the Euro kind of agrees that we could see some potential development. I want you to really follow this little blob as it goes up to the Caribbean, potentially into the Gulf as well. And I just want you to watch what the Euro is thinking that it could maybe do. The Euro is predicting that it could eventually turn into a major hurricane in the Gulf. Now, will this happen? It's definitely way too far out to draw any conclusions, but it's just a reminder that even though it's still October, we still want to watch the Atlantic for some tropical development at least until the end of the month, in that our environment for development is still going to be very favorable in the main development region for at least the coming weeks. And also, we just want to watch this system with maybe some extra caution than maybe we have with some others. Now, a couple of things potentially steering this: that typical pattern of some high pressure systems and then also some fronts pushing off the coast could actually be something that kind of pushes it back down into the Gulf. It could also be something that kind of pulls it up out into the Atlantic and pushes it away. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. And because it's still watching that this pattern of persistent fronts coming off the coast, we definitely cannot draw any conclusions yet for that reason. Of course, it's also too far out, and the track will 100% change, or the model runs will 100% change greatly in the next coming days and definitely in the next week. But just a reminder that even a couple of models are picking up on some development now. We are going to want to watch this. Now, another thing I do want to talk about is that some other models like the GFS are picking up on the Caribbean gyre, starting to get a kind of kickstart. And as we go into the later season, we're normally are expecting to see a little bit more spin out here, maybe spinning a couple of things up. That's definitely not uncommon. So that's also another area that we're going to want to watch as we go into mid and late October. Now, moving away from the stuff happening in the tropics, for the first time in a minute, we actually have a decently sized risk of some severe weather, although it's only a marginal risk, not really much of anything to worry about. Of course, we still have some areas forecasted for some general thunderstorm activity, really nothing more than that. One's going to be in southern Arizona along the Gulf Coast, southeastern coast, then up here in the north as well, and the Canada-US border, North Dakota, Minnesota, then also the Michigan Peninsula. But the main area we're going to want to watch is going to be out west and parts of the Rockies in Nevada. We could see some more activity from that persistent front that we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot of thunderstorm activity out here anyways, but now there is a chance of seeing some severe damaging gust, maybe in that 60-mile-an-hour range. And then also our hail risk covers the same area, potentially seeing some 1.5-inch hail today. However, I do want to point out that it is going to be a very conditional risk, and we're about to see that when I go over to the weather models. Now, the weather models aren't really showing anything too crazy going on. This is about the afternoon today, and we're not really seeing a bunch of thunderstorm development. Of course, we are going to see kind of that clear frontal zone, and then also where a lot of those remnant thunderstorms from earlier in the day, kind of from that big jet stream causing some forcing there are going to be, but we're not really expecting to see a ton of development at the moment. Of course, this could change, so we still want to be prepared for some thunderstorms, maybe some severe weather out here today, but it doesn't really look like we'd see that start until potentially tomorrow morning or very, very late tonight when that low pressure system kind of forms along that jet stream and frontal boundary, and then we could get some more organized storms. And moving into the more northern parts of our risk area, we're kind of seeing the same thing mirrored where it just looks like it's going to be a very, very conditional risk, not really seeing a super big region of some organized severe weather painted today on this HRRR run. However, we still want to be prepared for that kind of because it is still a marginal risk area highlighted by the Storm Prediction Center, but it doesn't really look like we'd start to see some really organized storms kind of way more east of this and then tomorrow as well. So I do want to kind of remember that there is still a marginal risk here for severe weather, but nothing crazy really looks like it's going to unfold.